of Yahweh. So where we going to seek him is in the words of a book. And he says, seek him out and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth it has commanded, and his spirit it has gathered them. So Yahweh God has told us, and this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And how we know we're doing this? Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. Because we're carrying out the very message that our God has given us. We're carrying it out. You know, as Yahweh has requested, we're doing it. And this is what your leaders have to teach the people. See, we on time. Yahweh, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. What does it say?
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee.
Hasn't these things come upon us?
Yes.
Okay.
The blessing and the curse.
Yes, the blessing when we went in the land, the curse when we broke those rules and regulations in the Torah, and was what? Which I have set before thee, go on.
And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations.
Isn't that what we're doing? We're calling it back. We're remembering. Sakara Yah, remember Yah. Go ahead.
Whither Yahweh thy God hath driven thee. And shall return unto Yahweh thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, and with all thy heart, and with all thy soul. And then Yahweh thy God will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yahweh thy God hath scattered thee.
Yes, see, Yahweh scattered us. And we're bringing this back to mind. Where are we bringing it back to mind from? Let's go to Zechariah. Zechariah, whole Deuteronomy chapter 30. But let's go to Zechariah. What are we doing? We're executing exactly what it says in Zechariah, exactly what it says here. We're actually performing these things right before our eyes. Because Zechariah begins to explain, Zechariah chapter 10. Zechariah chapter 10, verse 9.
And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries.
That's right, what it says, he says, read it again.
And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries.
That's right.
And they shall live in their children, and turn again. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Adria, and Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead, and
Lebanon,
and place shall not be found for them.
So he says there, he says, and I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. Oh, that's what we do. We turn it again. See, and even in Ezekiel, let's go to Ezekiel, because Ezekiel chapter 6, Ezekiel chapter 6, yeah. See, that's what we're doing. We're turning, and we're letting loose the vanities of the world, and we're turning to Yahweh. Ezekiel 6, verse 8 to 9.
Yet will I leave a remnant, and ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered through the countries. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations, whether they shall be carried captives, because I am broken in their boorish heart.
That's right. That's what he said. He said, I've broken. He said, which has departed from me, and with their eyes which go a-whoring after their idols, and they shall laud themselves for the evil which they have committed in all their abomination. Yahweh says, yet will I leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered among the countries. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations, whether ye shall be carried captive. He said, because I am broken with their whorish heart, which has departed from me, and with their eyes which go a-whoring after their idols. And they shall loth themselves for the evil which they have committed in all their abominations. So this is what we're doing. See, Yahweh, that we were scattered all over the world. We the people that came in here as captives. And we're remembering it among the nations and calling it back to mind and encouraging our kids to live and say, look, this is who we are. And we're talking to our children, say, man, this is who we are. Let's return back to our God. And therefore, Yahweh God is beginning to do a great and awesome work. Let's go back let's stay in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 9. Because Yahweh is placing a mark. And this mark, Ezekiel 9, let's start at 1. Go ahead.
He cried also in mine ear with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charged over the city to draw near, every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand, and one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the Elohim of Israel was gone up from the cherubim, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Elohim said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the forehead of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said to mine hearing, go ye after him through the city of Smite. Through the city and Smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house.
So he said, slay utterly old and young, both male, maid, and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. So these men came, he said, cry also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the high gates, which lay towards the north, and every man a slaughtering weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with the writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar, and the glory of Elohim of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the men clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Yahweh said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the forehead of the men that sigh, and that cry for the abomination that be done in the midst thereof. And to the other he said in my hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maid and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. So the thing is, this mark that was put upon them was even mentioned in the book of Revelation. And let's go to the book of Revelation. Book of Revelation chapter 7, verse 3. It talked of this mark, and it was due to the abomination that was being done, that Yahweh God called for a massive slaughter. And he told them, but come not nigh those with the mark in their forehead. Could you read Revelation chapter 6 from verse 1 to verse 3?
And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
Yahweh God told them, he said, man, don't hurt them. He said, don't hurt them at all until I have executed totally, because the mark is going to be given. And let's see this mark that is given to those that are the beasts. Let's go to Revelation chapter 13. Let's start at verse 15 to 16.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, which are brought free in bonds, to receive the mark of the right hand and on their forehead.
So he said the beast. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And let's go to Revelation chapter 14, verse 11, starting at verse 11.
And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receive the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Bless all the dead which die in Yahweh from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them.
So those that will receive the mark of the beast will be tormented, and the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receive the mark of his name. So we can see that those that are the beasts, and those of us that will receive, that the earth things cannot happen on this earth until we receive the mark. If the mark, and this would be given by Yahweh. The mark is given by Yahweh. Yahweh is going to give the mark. You cannot get the mark under no reason. Nothing you can do. If Yahweh God don't give you the mark, you can't get it no other way. It says here, Zephaniah chapter 2, it says, Seek ye Yahweh, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of Yahweh's anger. So the thing is that it says, gather yourself, it says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day passes as a shadow, before the fierce anger of Yahweh come upon you, before the day of Yahweh's anger come upon you. Seek ye Yahweh, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of Yahweh's anger. So Yahweh God, and that's Zephaniah chapter 2, 1-3. These are the things that we seek. We seek that Yahweh will give us this mark. And this is depending upon him. And those that received the mark, they did not incur the destruction that those that receive. And this is why it says in the Apocrypha, it says in the Apocrypha about those in 2nd Ezra, giving you a clear understanding that these things will happen. These things will happen. Yahweh God is interested in confirming in our lives our path, so that we might truly be the sons and daughters of a great God. And therefore, he tells us, and they that have lost my Torah, while they, I'm in the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra, chapter 10, and I'm starting at verse 11. Want to read that?
Says, who, chapter 10, verse 11.
No, 11. Chapter 9, verse 11.
And they that have loathed my law, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. The same must know it after death by pain.
That's right. See, they're going to know it by death. They're going to be, in their death, they're going to have pain. There are people that have left here, and they're in total misery. They're in total, when I tell you total, just like that slave that got beat up and tortured, it tells about how he's at rest. They say he's at rest. But it tells you that those that had liberty to make a different life for themselves, that slave that was murdered by his master, he didn't give that man no time to repent or he took his life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, burning for burning. So I'm saying to you is that Yahweh God is going to punish that master. He's going to punish the laws that did and allowed such a hideous act of torture to come upon a people that was helpless. There's nothing in the Torah about slavery. But when we understand about slavery, we must understand the cruel and inhuman punishment. He tells in the book of Obadiah, he said, for the violence, for your brother, shame shall cover you, and you will be cut off, because what they did was hideous, ungodly, and therefore it was an event that took place in slavery. And after slavery, that was so diabolical, so inhuman, so with no feelings given, that they lashed out as a people that they went and got. And then they don't show them the homage. They make them pay taxes. They give them hard times. They have every slander that they say against these people. And these have been the most hardworking people. And they get the greatest pleasure at their seeing their misery. And that's why Yahweh God sends us great information in here. That when we read it, Yahweh says, my son, just sit down, because I want to tell you something. It said, he said, sit down, because I want to whisper something in your ears. And let me read this to you. This is in Barak chapter 4, starting at verse 29. Barak chapter 4, verse 29. And we're going to read, what does
For
it say?
he that hath brought these plagues upon you shall bring you everlasting joy again with your salvation. And take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflicted thee.
Miserable, what did he say? Miserable are they. Go ahead.
Okay. Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy son.
Yeah, see, they're in torment. They're in torment. They're in torment. Because the circumstances to them, and Yahweh's telling you here, they don't rest easy with you. They rest uncomfortably with you. They know the misery that they cause you and the misery that even in their law. They know it's unjust. They know that they put guns in your community. They put drugs in your community. They do all these hideous things in your community. They raise the prices, give you stale food. They know this. They know this. They're misery because they know the wrong that they have done to us doesn't allow us to compete with them. They give us inferior books, inferior schools, inferior teachers. If they thought these teachers was teaching us anything, they wouldn't be in your community. They're here not to teach you. That's why you got to teach your children. You must teach your children. If you don't teach your children and give your children the right instruction, then you do yourself injustice because they're not in here to help us. They're in here to serve a purpose. Their curriculum is an inferior curriculum. And therefore, for one thing, the first thing you teach a people, and a people like black, teach them their own history. What is their history? You understand? When you go sit in school, what history they teach you? They teach, what history did you learn? You learn about white people, right? You learn all about white people. What do you learn about yourself? The closest thing you learn, you was a slave, and you better be thankful to that, because they act like they did you a favor. But I'm just saying to you, Yahweh God ain't pleased with them, because it's not right. But their misery, and their misery brings us misery, because they're always trying to say, what are them niggas doing? And go down there and get them, because we don't want them to have no joy, because we ain't at peace. And they ain't at peace, and they don't want you to be at peace. So may Yahweh God bless us in knowing the truth. And Yahweh God says, comfort ye, my people. He wants us to be comforted. He wants us to sit down and be at peace. Nakamawa apmaya, Yamura, Allahayakama, Baburawa atlalama, Yura wa shalama, Wakura awa Allah yaha, Kaya Mala'aha tisba'aha, Kaya nura tisha, Ahwanaha, Kaya lakwahaha, Mayada yahawaha, Kapala yama, Ba kala, Khata'ata yaha. And as it says, comfort ye, my people, said Allahayama. I love that. Comfort ye, my people, says Allahayama. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she has received of Yahweh's hand double for all her sins. That's Isaiah chapter 40 from 1 to 2. May Yahweh bless us and keep us. May the Spirit of our God be ever with us. May we do the things that please Yahweh.